what was your intention for life when you graduated?
I knew I was going to college. I never had a choice when it came to
Okay.
that. Like, it was never a question. You know, the reason why my parents had me in those programs when I was younger is to prepare me to go to college. And the reason why they wanted me in private school was to prepare me to go to college. That was always the goal. I always knew I was going to college. And my brother is a year older than
Hmm.
me. He got accepted early to
Oh,
Brown. My brother was the good
oh,
one. He's like super smart, like all he did was stay in the house and play with the computer and watch TV. He didn't even really go outside like
that
that.
made you look
And so,
super bad, though.
and he would tell on me all the
Oh man.
time. Like, he wasn't even like, he did not even have my back. And so it was just, we were so different. And so it did make me seem like a lot worse than what I was. But,
Yeah.
yeah, so he went to Brown, he got in early. And so I knew I was going to go to college. It was never like, are you going to go to college? I thought I was going to be a writer though.
Why? Tell me why you like writing.
Well, ever since I was in like kindergarten, I used to write a lot. I used to write little poems and everything, and I would write short stories. And really, when I was young and I would get mad at my parents, I would write a whole story like about how I was adopted and they were my real parents. So I was very creative.
Okay, first off, I need to get your parents on the line. How's your relationship with them now? Because you were a terrorist. How's your relationship with them now, or how has it changed, obviously, since you were a teenager?
Well, first of all, I think they can't believe I'm
Mhm.
successful, but they're excited about it, like about everything. So everything is, we're good now. And I think part of what makes me who I am today is
Mhm.
all the things I did when I was younger. So I always was like the person who had a lot of friends. My house was the hangout spot where everybody would come. I had sleepovers all the time. We snuck boys in the
Yeah.
house and had little parties while my parents were upstairs sleeping. Like, my house was
Mhm.
it.
Somebody's listening to the podcast right now, playing it's for parents and being like, look, so when I let me do me, because look, I'm gonna be successful. Like you see what happens when you do you. You come out I can't say that everybody has turned into Angela Yee, but I get it. Do you think that and I agree with you, a fearless spirit does require a lot of what you do. Like you take chances, you put yourself out there, you push forward, you live in a very different world, and you have this amazing platform. When did you realize that this is your calling? This is what you were called to do?
That was hard for me to realize at first. I really had a marketing background. So I was doing marketing and I did write. Like, I was doing some writing. I would do bios for
Mm.
artists. And so I would interview them. I did a cover story for Vibe once.
Mm.
And yeah, the first time I ever wrote for Vibe, they made it the cover story. And so I've done like all of that. I know people don't even know that. I don't even ever bring that up. But I remember I interviewed Machine Gun Kelly like way early on for Yellow Rat Bastard magazine. And so I was doing all of those things with eventually I was like, one day I'm going to get back to writing. And I was doing marketing for different clothing lines. I had a lot of good connections because of the different places I worked. My first job was Wu-Tang. And working for Wu-Tang was great because they were affiliated with so many other labels because everybody was signed to a different label. So essentially, I knew everyone at like all the different record labels. And a lot of us came up together. There's people I know today just from back when I worked at Wu-Tang and they worked at Loud Records, and this person worked at MCA, and this person worked at Elektra, and this person worked at Def Jam. And it's really nice that I'm able to still have those relationships because we all were like in the struggle
Isn't that
early
isn't
on.
that interesting? You started off and would you say that you started off in music in marketing? Is that where you got your start?
I started off as an
Okay.
assistant. And so that was, yeah. And so that was my first job. And then I
You were an
transitioned
assistant for
into
who?
marketing for the CEO of Wu
Okay.
Tang. So he ran like the management company, the production company, all their label deals, everything. And so he was never really in the office. So every time someone needed something, they would have to call me and then I would relay it to him. And so he was really great. That was like an awesome first job out of college.
How amazing is that? Okay, I want you to know, and just true to anytime I see a woman self-made, anybody for that matter, but women specifically of color, it always warms my heart to hear the story of where I began, because I feel like everybody just wants to be put on right away. Like right away they want to be successful. Right away they think that they deserve a certain salary or a certain level of respect. And to hear that you started off as an assistant, and to become who you are today requires a certain type of intestinal fortitude, and it just makes me really happy to see that you did it that way. I know so many people who don't want to put in the time. So you go from being an assistant to what's next? Like, walk me through your career trajectory.
So I left that job because I got a job that offered me more
Hmm.
money. And I actually really enjoyed that job. I probably shouldn't have left when I did. And I'll never forget, I asked my boss, could I talk to him? I went into his office and he was like, I just want to tell you, you're doing a great job. You know, I just got some compliments about you. I was like, yeah. So about that, like,
I'm leaving.
yeah. And he was upset, you know, but he was fine. And so I left to go work for for Virgin Records, right? To help launch this new label. This was like the worst job of my life. But it was a label called Chiba Sounds where D'Angelo was
Mm.
signed. And that was D'Angelo's label that his manager started. It was like an awful experience. And so it was like a terrible job. But the whole thinking was I used to intern at MTV when I was in college. And so the guy I interned for, he was amazing. His name was Fred Jordan. And he like an amazing person. He was the music manager. So when people wanted to get their videos played on MTV, they had to present it to him. So everybody wanted to be cool with him because then he would bring the videos into the meeting and he could help pick what went on TV when they used to play videos. And
Wow.
so I'll never forget, like one day he was like, come on, come with me to this meeting. And we went to Daddy's house and Puffy was playing like the new Biggie video that no one has seen yet. And so I was there and he had like, you know, drinks and hors d'oeuvres and everything. So it was a really dope job because I got to see all of those things firsthand. And he would always bring me to everything. And, you know, he did end up taking his own life. And that was like a devastating situation for me and for a lot of people because, you know, back then everybody loved Fred. Like he was the dopest person. And so anyway, he was the one that wanted me to leave because he always wanted to hire me at MTV, but there wasn't really anything for me. So he was like, and you need to leave Wu-Tang because you need to do something that's like more upper echelon. That's how he was. He was like, go work for D'Angelo. It's R&B. And I listened to him because they also offered me more money and a bigger position. They said I would be the general manager of the label, which was a big deal. I was only 23 years old.
Yeah.
And so
Anybody
it
would
was
have done
a
that.
brand,
Anybody would have done that. Yeah.
yeah, but you know, Wu Tang was like a family. And so I did really miss that when I left. And so I left to go work for this other label, and it was just like a mess. Like the boss was sleeping with his
No.
assistant, and she would like never come to. It was just awful. It was an awful environment. And his partner, the manager, his partner was like this white guy, and he was like this white Jewish guy. And his thinking was, the other guy who owned the label, he was black. He was like, "Oh, you got to have a white Jewish partner," and like that was his thinking. And they were just, it was like very sexist and misogynistic. It was an awful environment for me to be in, and so I just couldn't last there. And then the straw that broke the camel's back, he called me into his office for a meeting, right? The younger black guy, and he asked me to sleep with him. And I really thought we were having a meeting. So I like came in there, I had like a pad, a pen, and I was like, okay, what's going on? Because honestly, like it was at this time when D'Angelo was working on his album, but there was nothing going on. Like he had been working on this album for years. He would like go to the studio. Well, he wouldn't even go to the
Yeah.
studio. They would hire all these musicians, get all this equipment, and D'Angelo wouldn't even show up. And he wouldn't even let them hear what he was working
Oh
on, like
boy.
nothing. And so, like, we weren't doing anything all day. And so, the whole label was based off of we have D'Angelo,
Mm.
and D'Angelo was doing his. So, I was just like trying to make things happen, but there wasn't much happening. And so, that happened. And I told them, I said, I would rather die. And I walked out. And I was like, so I remember I called my best friend and I told her, I don't think I could do this. I have to quit. And she had an artist that she actually signed a development deal with them for. And so she was like, well, Angela, we just did this deal. You think you could stick it through? And so I was like, the next day they fired me. So
They fired you essentially because you didn't sleep with old boy.
yeah, and he didn't come in the office and he had his partner fire
Oh
me.
God.
And so yes. And then they told me they would give me like an extra 2 weeks pay or whatever. And then they tried to not do that. And so I threatened them, and I was like, because I think back then you don't think I just got sexually harassed, I'm going to call a lawyer. You think I'm young and I want to make sure I work in this business later. So this is just part of what it is. And that's what I thought. This is part of what it is to be in the music
Yeah,
business.
I don't even know in our business if we still think that way, if I'm being honest with you. Because you're talking about when you're in your 20s, and I can tell you I got put on late in life and had the same situations happen to me, and I never thought I should go tell. I always thought I still want to work in the business, which is really sad, right?
Yeah, you think like, all right, whatever, I'm just going to leave here and keep it moving. And so that's what I just was like, okay. And I did call and say, if you guys don't give me my check, I'll be calling a
Oh, good for
lawyer. And they did.
you.
Yeah, I don't know if I really was going to do
Yeah,
it, but I
no,
just
but
said
that's
it.
the. By the way, this goes back. So let's bring it full circle to let's hop in the car, just stole it, temp plates on, let's crash, keep going. Like the fearlessness in you, your instinct is to fight back, right, or to try something new. Like that's what I'm seeing, and I think that's really smart because I don't even know at 23 if I would have been bold enough to say that. You know,
I mean, I was furious. And the other thing, and since the statute of limitations is up on this, I'll tell you the other thing that I did
statue.
was
Y'all can't come for her. Okay, go ahead.
so what I did was back then you could call a car, right? If you had an account number, you just had to know like call the car company and say account number 793, I'd like to call a car for wherever. So I gave the car account number to a whole bunch of people. And so they were using the cars and like going to the Poconos and going to the supermarket and going all over the place. So they got the bill, and it was all like Rising Staten Island. So it was like from me.
They like
And so they got the and the dumbest thing they did was they hired somebody after I left, after they fired me, who I had recommended for the job.
oh Lord. And so this
Like I had recommended her for another position, and then they hired her like not for my position but as an assistant. And so she was calling me and filling me in on everything like, girl, they mad, they don't got this bill. All right. And so then she was like, they called me and they were like, we called the police, you're gonna get arrested if if you tell us now, we could work something out. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, because she had already told me that there was nothing they could do about it, that the police don't care. You could file a report, but you would have to hire a private investigator because they're not going to waste their time on that. So I already knew they weren't going to do all that. And so I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. What? I'm sorry, I have no idea. Go ahead, press charges, get me arrested. I have no idea what you're even discussing.
Good for you.
And that was that.
Good.
That's my little revenge.
First of all,
but I'm grown now. I would never do that.
Well,
now.
all I know is I'm inspired because I'm like call your bluff. Good talk shit. Do it.